Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Hello, Amy Fitzgibbon here, news reporter with the Irish Farmers Journal. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, we are in Galway, hearing from a farmer affected by bovine TB, and in Wexford, where we talk to a couple who have farmed for 9 decades in Gorey. We are also in studio, looking forward to what farmers can expect in 2017. But first, I'm joined by our Tillage editor, Andy Doyle, to discuss the news we broke last week that EU Commissioner Phil Hogan has definitively ruled out the possibility of an EU crisis fund for Ireland's tillage farmers. Now, Andy, the Commissioner has alluded to this before, but this was, I suppose, the most explicit he's been so far. His exact words to Sinn Féin MEP Matt Carthy were that it is not necessary for the Commission to propose at EU level a specific support package for the cereal sector and tillage farmers. So he gave a number of reasons for this, which we might look at in a bit, but now that the possibility of a crisis fund has been ruled out at EU level, where do Ireland's tillage farmers who've lost an average of 105 tonnes of grain this year go from here?
Well, Amy, I think the first thing that we need to say is that it's not something that every farmer needs. It'd be nice if there was something there to compensate for low prices, but we live in a real world and we live in a very real and transparent grain market. And as a consequence, people who plant know that prices are a risk all of the time. I think the particular concern that we have for this year are those poor people who got caught with really bad weather-related difficulties. Nothing to do with price, just that they lost big chunks of their crop. And that would apply from kind of the southern coast, South Wexford, big parts of South Cork, and right the way around up into Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, Donegal, and around further into the north of Ireland. But it's only some people and it's only some of their crop. But the losses for those particular people were fairly horrific in the year gone by.
Is this the difficulty, though, that we face? Because unlike the dairy sector, where there were a number of EU countries where dairy farmers were suffering, it's a very targeted situation here with the tillage crisis, I suppose, and that would be the difficulty at EU level. Like the Commissioner was saying, it's too varied between country to country in the European Union.
That's a kind of an easy opt-out for the Commission. It's ironic, that they would be prepared to countenance aid if it was a big cost across all of Europe, and yet when individuals are put at the mercy of weather or other factors outside of their control, that there's no willingness at all to concede that people would be entitled to such aid, whether they be in Ireland or France or parts of Poland, wherever local conditions acted to hammer individuals. It seems wrong that the whole aid target would be focused in that way. Perhaps they will allow local governments to intervene because in real terms the problem is not that big, but I appreciate fully the great difficulty of how to intervene in such a scenario where one person might very well have a genuine entitlement and another person might not have a genuine entitlement just by virtue of geography or luck or whatever.
Yeah. So it looks like the only kind of possibility then that the tillage farmers can have is for national funds. Like the IFA has called on the government to come up with a €5 million crisis aid package under national state aid rules, and the Commissioner did say in his letter to Matt Carthy that he would discuss the possibility of further support measures with the Irish government. Do you think the government will cave to pressure on this? Minister Creed has said repeatedly that there won't be a crisis fund for tillage farmers, and is this even what tillage farmers want or need?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that when a minister or anybody talks about a crisis fund for tillage farmers, we're talking about a small subset of those farmers.
About 212 tillage farmers.
Yeah, a relatively small number of people that were unfortunate enough just to be hammered continuously by incessantly bad weather. And if a minister or anybody in politics is not prepared to admit and concede that that's a real problem for those people, then we're dealing with real concerns for the future. But it is genuine, and I think it is possible if the minister wanted. One of the challenges is to know what the right thing to do is. One farmer that I spoke to during the height of the harvest difficulties said to me that he didn't particularly want a handout. Maybe he would have changed his mind by now, but that what he would really like, given the nature of the business we're in, was to just ask the government to ask the institutions to freeze his bills for 12 months. And hopefully next year will be better, and he would be able to tackle them next time around. The problem that everybody has is just having a reserve of cash, literally, to be able to go into next year's cropping season to be able to purchase things without having to buy it all on hock or merchant credit or bank credit or whatever.
And this year's budget announcements, will they help at all, the income averaging or the €150 million loan fund?
The loan fund may be useful, but the details of it will need to be made known before people make alternative arrangements to try and access the cash for the coming season. The income averaging probably really only matters if you're making money and paying tax. For some of the people that are involved, not only is there no tax in 2016, but neither was there tax in 2015. Certainly, if it meant that there was an outstanding bill from some source that could be offset for 12 months or more, obviously that would be a help. But for some of the people involved, unfortunately, that's not going to be a major boost.
Okay. Well, we'll be hearing from you later on, Andy, on what tillage farmers can expect in 2017. But for the moment, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Amy.
You're listening to the Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Now, many farmers along the route of the new M17 to M18 motorway from Gert to Tuam in County Galway have been hit by severe outbreaks of TB since the construction work started. Irish Farmers Journal news correspondent Thomas Hubert met one of them, Mortimer Keane, who showed him traces of badger rooting dangerously close to the yard where he keeps his cattle in Athenry.
You've shown me kind of rooting and digging by the badgers very close to your farm, just on the roadway leading up to the yard. Is that unusual?
Well, the badger moves around at dusk, and the other night at 2:10, I was walking to the dogs, there was an awful barking sound from the dogs, and it was actually the badgers within a couple of 100 feet of the shed.
Now, what's happening with the remaining badgers, the one that haven't moved on? You've shown me snares. What's happening there?
Well, the procedure at the moment now, a department official has called to my farm, and I've shown him the sets where the badgers are. He has come along and set snares on the actual home to the badgers, and hope to catch them there and tranquilise the badger then for 8 to 10 hours and microchip him and inject him against TB and inject him and see has he TB. But my main soreness in this thing is that if the badger has TB, he can mutt around after 10 hours when he wakes up and he's gone. Whereas my cattle are taken away and slaughtered, and I'm closed down for 120 days. There's something very wrong somewhere.
Okay, Mortimer, thanks very much.
We hope that you're enjoying this Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy. Find out more at farmersjournal.ie.
As we slow down for the holidays, let's hear from George and Cathy Doyle. This couple have farmed through 9 decades in Gorey, County Wexford. Una Sinnott has only just started as a first-year ag student in UCD, and she asked George and Cathy to take her through the changes they have witnessed through their farming life.
I have the pleasure of being accompanied now by Mr. and Mrs. George Doyle of Knockbrandon Upper, Gorey, County Wexford. I believe the Doyle name has been here for many generations, George. Would I be right?
Well, from the 16th century, I know. And I said after that, I don't even before it.
And came down across the field.
Yeah. So how did you and George meet?
I couldn't tell you that. We knew one another all the way.
Yeah, you're happy it happened anyway.
We got married in 1968.
Was there a big honeymoon, George?
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. It's still going on, is it?
We travelled Ireland for we went out to the west of Ireland. And
Oh, very good.
down for
That sounds lovely.
3 or 4 days and got back then and got into it.
Lovely, yeah. What has been your earliest memory of farming the land here?
Well, I left school at 12 and a half. My eldest brother got down to paralysis.
All right, yeah.
And my young brother had died the year or that before it.
Okay.
So someone had to stay at home to mind the ship. Don't try to go down. So I don't know, only me to do it. And I got leave from the teacher. And I started to plough with a pair of horses at 12 and a half, and I was reaching up to the hundreds. You ploughed away there in the day and come in with a short trousers on you. There were no long trousers for a chap that time. So you come in and you got there and off you go with your pair of horses to the field again. You had your ploughing done. Well then, there was, to get ready to feed, you had to harrow it with your horses. That time there was an old cordon sower. A lot of people had them. More hadn't them. Well, they were yoked up to the horses. A beam in it. A horse at each side of a beam. And you put in the corn in it. There was no combine sowing. It was only the seed corn that was sown. And you sowed that. Got that done and seed harder than with your horses. And then come along, there was potatoes to be sowed. Again out you went with your horses.
You were about 12.
Yes, 12 and a half was it, when I left school.
Left school. And where did you go to school?
What a seed.
Yeah. And what was it like at the time?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. There was a ferocious teacher. When I got kicked and boxed and he'd pull your ears, the hair there.
Yeah.
And the misters often had to go into seed for jobs.
It was okay to leave school at 12. Would that have been the done thing back then?
Well, in a lot of the schools would have said. It was Mr. Dial now in Cranford. She was an aunt to Paddy Morris's.
All right.
And I heard she was a tightener as well. Now a religious exam had come. You had to learn the catechism, that'd be in October. I don't think it takes place now at all.
What's that, sorry, George?
A religious exam.
A religious
priest
exam.
had going around to the schools.
Examine the children on what
Oh, okay.
Christian doctor.
they had.
Okay, yeah.
So we'd have to get a 40 before the way we'd beat up, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he'd have to stick oil up for that.
It's changed a lot since then,
Oh,
George.
don't be talking. I tell you what, it was the same as Lancashire Jail. You were all going to school with the fear. And what you're going to get, any little thing at all, you got around you. Me and my brother, he was a year younger than me, God rest him. We're in the one class. And look at that, 2 old boys below talking in the corner. We be talking on something that what we're doing. We beat you for that, for talking. It got to, my brother, he beat him worse. He used to write with the left hand. But he was more
He should be allowed to do what they
you know, he couldn't change.
He couldn't. He
The more
couldn't
me
write with
changing,
her again.
or you changing from the right hand, I couldn't write with the left.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
he couldn't write with the right.
Yeah.
So one evening I had him in and I went up. There was an old pump at the hall that time. Knocking in the time waiting for him to get out, to come home, the doors go home. Out comes the old boss man in the gate, he had a big ball head. Come down here, Doyle, boy. I didn't know, but sure I had to go otherwise. You wouldn't go home, go on in there and stop for the half hour. I was already sure I was going to go home. With my brother, I know where Mick Doyle has the house there. I'd in there and wait there across the ditch. Look out when he come out. Go home now then. If he had got me then, I don't know what he did.
You walked to school, George?
Oh, I walked to school.
Yeah, I suppose it wasn't too bad of a walk for yourself.
Oh, I had company.
You had company, yeah.
Well, I tell you what he did. Me and him was coming down the valley with my brother. And we started to make snowballs out of moss. The next day he said, you were putting moss off the stones in my ditch and shaking it. And you got to work for that. At that time, the girls used to go out Thursday evening at 2 o'clock to the mister room for sewing.
All right.
Learning sewing. Thursday and Friday. So now I the chaps that was in the master room. 2 Doyle boys sweep the school. And the 2 Doyle boys went on out to the hall and got the brushes. My brother says to me, will we go in and do them in?
Do you mean?
Go on in. He meant it.
Yeah.
Get him, split him. Because he had bet him so much
Yeah.
that he had only waiting for a chance. Only I said no. Oh, God knows I know. I'll have to wait till some other time.
And did you wait till another time?
Oh, we never done it.
Never come
No.
up again.
We took a hit over a farmer, Terry.
Oh, God.
We've been in it for our lifetime.
Did you have many brothers and sisters?
I had 2 brothers and 7 sisters.
7?
Only 7.
Oh.
No, it was only the 5 of us.
5. Still, I suppose that's relatively big, I suppose, compared to nowadays. What was the average family size years ago? About 10?
An average around 7
Yeah.
or thereabouts.
I suppose the average now is about 3, I'd imagine.
3,
Yeah.
That's right, that is right.
Yeah, it's probably the most.
And because it was some job to clothe children that time.
The only thing is, with land, like you were able to have your own feeding, like you had.
Yeah,
you
like
had
kind
your
of
own
self-sufficient.
meat, You had your own butter and you had your own meat.
Yeah, so you did things yourself.
Yeah, and there was a pig killed, and so you had your own bacon.
Yeah.
And that left it.
Sure, right,
It wasn't
yeah.
so hard. You only had to get the tea and sugar, and
Yeah.
you weren't too
Can you
bad.
imagine a
You
family?
wouldn't be going out to the supermarket and filling up a big trolley with stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Then you grew wheat, you see,
Yeah.
a bit of wheat. You brought a barrel of wheat. A barrel of wheat is 20 stone. You brought it to the mill, got it ground.
And where was the local mill here?
Lines, and they took the bran off of the wheat. They did.
And then you could make your bread.
Yeah, you could make flour then. The bread was
Your own
made.
flour.
Flour. Yeah.
But the government stepped in and stopped the taking of the bran off it. This was in the war years, 39 to 45.
And why did they do
They
that?
said, you're wasting too much. The bran had to be ground up along with the wheat.
So, God, that's crazy then. So you're talking war years now, George.
Yeah,
So,
39 started.
yeah. And did it have a big impact on Ireland, or can you remember?
It's frightful. Sure, you had ration books for tea. You were allowed to, I think it was an ounce or 2 of tea a week. Sugar, everything.
Yeah.
Your
Everything
clothes.
was rationed. Clothes was
Clothes were rationed. You had a ration book and you couldn't go beyond that.
A rationed book?
A ration book,
Yeah.
As in a maximum?
There's so much coupons in it for whatever family you had.
The government sent them around to you and me, and the coupons were there. You could use them all if you like, but you had nothing there. Now they had a subsidy for the tea. They used to make up old drinks, cocoa cup. Look, you know, you drank it.
Coffee and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, coffee
It
aero.
wasn't coffee like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And coffee aero. That's all you had. Now, there used to be thrashings that time. You cut the corn, stuck it, stacked it, threw it into the horse and jar, ricked it. Well, now a thrashing day come. You got your neighbours all around. You went to them. And there could be 15 and 17 here. But that was the time you were a bit of a ration of tea. Went to hell altogether that time. Yeah, you had to, but then your neighbours were the same.
Yeah.
When their day come.
Yeah. Shared it around. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so there was great community spirit then back in the day. Do you think it was better back then than it is now?
That time the neighbours coming to stack or maybe give you a day, you get them, put in the corn, thrash, the hay. Then the hay was mowed with an old, I have an old mowing machine out there still. I don't know what it was here when I come here. And I chip it. And I bound after it and I cocked hay after it. You mowed with the horses again. 2 horses in the beam. And come along, cocked your hay, a couple or 3 lads with the forks, a horse and an old rake, tumbler rake, walking after it. Got it in the hay to the box and I had cocked it. I then went along after, they head up the cocks, picked them up. The other way with the wet one get at them. And then the day come you had to get lads drawn in. So there was always a store.
Yeah.
Great community spirit.
Only I tell you,
Great community spirit,
the feeding wasn't wonderful. I have to tell you that.
The feeding?
The feeding wasn't wonderful.
No.
It wasn't.
And how long would all this take to harvest?
How long would a cake for putting the corn and...
And when the see when it was ripe, you had to get going, and maybe 3 or 4 days if the weather was good.
Yeah, make hay while the sun
Yeah,
shines.
then it was bad, of course, you're unyoked again. It was the same with the hay. You had to get the fine weather.
Exactly, yeah. So then, I suppose the introduction of machinery then.
Oh God, it came in the 50s, I'd say. 60s anyway.
Yeah. And
That combine shame.
exactly.
That cut out the winding, tying shaves and stacking and stuff.
Must have had a huge impact on people.
A huge impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had never come, but it did come.
Yeah.
It sure to come.
And was machinery introduced into a parish bit by bit? It was a gradual development,
That's
was
right.
it?
There was one come now, somewhere else that you hear, I got one.
Yeah.
A combine.
Big news, surely, was it?
That's, yeah. There was an old thrashing thing now, used to go around middle pictures and an engine for the drive the after thrashings. Well, now when the war came, the coal got that scarce you get no coal.
Oh, really?
Well, then there was no coal for the engine,
Oh, yeah.
the steamed engine. So it had to be scrapped. A tractor then, through the mill then.
That was the war years too, like.
Yeah.
That was the war years.
The war years.
Yeah, there was no
But it
coal.
remained on for a good bit after the war,
Yeah.
till things brightened up a bit. It was up in the 50s, I'd say, till things began to get a bit reasonable. But it didn't get all overnight, it didn't happen.
Machinery then, it would have took a lot of
Oh, God, it did.
work out of things.
Took the boiling mulligan out of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard work.
And I know now that you have a very nostalgic 135 out there.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. How long have you had that, Massey?
I have it over 40 years.
40 years, yeah.
Over 40. It wouldn't go till I go either.
Handy for driving around again.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
There's a turnip store out there. A one drill turnip store. You saw your turnips horse fastened to the turnip store. You walk it up and you're drilling the turnips. It's out there still.
One drill at a time.
One drill at a time.
Acres, maybe. And that would be big so.
A horse roller, a stone roller, with yokes in the end of it, they put wooden yokes on. And you fasten a horse to that, do the rolling.
And would you miss the hearses now as the machinery came in?
Well, in the start you did.
Yeah.
But you seen the comfort it was.
Yeah.
When I got the tractor.
Big difference.
I started at the tractor in the early 60s. And I said I wouldn't swap
People
back.
welcome machinery and the big
In the
change.
start, anyone that was fond of an engine, I wasn't that fond of them. They hated to see the engine gone.
Really?
You know, say you were very fond.
They didn't like to see the tractor coming because, I don't know why, but it was not that hard with an engine.
Yeah,
Getting
hard.
into places and everything, it was so big and leveling out.
Yeah, I suppose, sure, you wouldn't really maybe know how to fix an engine either, sure, if you
Yeah,
didn't have any
yeah.
experience with
But
it.
anyone that was fond of an engine, older people even than me that time, they liked the engine
Yeah.
because they come up with it.
Yeah, I
But I
suppose.
got too much heart about it.
Yeah.
I said it wasn't a bit of harm when I was gone. Now, in the war, like, when you had no coal, you had to cut a tree and split that up for the engine. To keep the steam on the engine to thrash. It was a big job.
And now, we also spoke there about a good few different enterprises. You know, we mentioned the turnip and you were saying how you make things yourself.
That's
You know,
right.
like the flour and things. But nowadays, I suppose it's more particular. You know, a farmer
Oh,
is...
God, yes. Oh, God, yes.
Either-
That's different.
Yeah.
I would tell Diddy some of the time we were he'd be talking about something you had to do. But she had nothing to do.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, all right.
To compare what was that? And then you went out to a field. There was no Wellingtons. There was no...
You were so long ploughing a field,
Yeah.
like with the one little straw going along. I know they didn't plough
I know,
that much.
10 each stroke. A 10 each stroke. Back and forward and back and forward, back and forward. You get blue in the face, but you had to keep going.
So you think farmers nowadays have a much easier job, like?
Think of the breadth of the house here of a plough.
Yeah, yeah. And a big, huge tractor.
That's what drawn them.
Yeah,
Drawn them.
yeah.
Because there was no Wellington to get out boots. And there was no leggings. You had to tie sacks of a bad wet day on your trousers, like. And sacks around your shoulders. A big plastic bag pinned with a nail on your shoulder. That'd be for an overcoat while you'd be walking in the field.
Yeah. And now, you mentioned there a bad day. In terms of weather, do you think the weather back in the 1950s and things was less temperamental?
I'm sure I'd say, Ona, you'd be always saying there were great days that there was the same weather probably mixed up all the time.
Really, yeah, yeah.
I'd say that. So no great odds.
I think so, Kai.
I said there was that there was wet years
You
then
had good
too.
summers.
Yeah.
You had good summers and you had bad summers.
Yeah. And then snow is another thing. I suppose I've only ever really saw one big snowfall.
There was
But
more snow then.
More
I think
snow.
There was more snow.
In 47.
When we were young, 47 of course was an awful.
You had 7 weeks now.
and how did you cope with that?
But you could do nothing at all.
Yeah.
Definitely was more nature.
Yeah, like-
birds seem to be gone.
Really? Do you think so?
Yeah, you
Because
do.
I was thinking about this the other day. I've only ever saw a barn owl once.
That's right.
But I'd imagine, you know, you've
you
probably...
could see them long ago. You didn't
Yeah.
have them.
What do you think, George?
Yeah, there were plenty.
More small.
The only thing that remained is the crow.
The crow. Yeah. The crow.
The jackdaw. They're there still.
them might are
Yeah,
there.
they'll stay here.
And their acts as well, they are there.
Yeah. And what do you think drove away the likes of the little sweet birds or the thrush or whatever?
The spray or what was
Spray,
poison.
yeah, maybe
or the
fertilizers and things.
Dressing on corn or something. You didn't
Yeah, when you
spray.
saw the turnip when they got to a certain degree, with sex on your knees, your father might remember some of it, but you're there couple or 3 acres of turnips, tinning away. All day long, laying about that between the turnip.
Yeah.
Angles were the same. Tinning them on your knees. And then they come along to snagging them. Yeah, the snagger. Go along and put them and snag them.
Beet was the same.
Yeah.
Beet, yeah.
Beet, yeah. People grow, maybe they grow 3 acres of beet that have to be all tinned and pulled and snagged and loaded with a sprung into a lorry.
How did you learn how to do all these different things, George and Cathy? Was it you learnt everything from your parents?
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
both
you
different
just saw it done.
goals.
When you were not working, you saw someone at that, you see.
Yeah.
In the
You were
field.
right.
When you're leaping around, you know, had a couple of good years. And you didn't think your year would come. But it did come.
Yeah.
And you go on your knee. Then the potato. You open drills for the potato. And the farmyard manure. Come on and load that with the sprung. Load up with the sprung, the horse and car. Come on and up it out and do it in the drills. When you're that done, you go along with the sprung and spread the manure in the drill.
Yeah.
Now come along with the potato seed. And a big plastic on you, and a bit like that around your shoulder. And you're sowing the seed along 12 inches apart or around there.
Yeah. And you would have learnt this off your father and he learnt about his.
That's right.
Yeah.
In the war, like anyway, there was no other sowing manure, but there was no manure.
Yeah.
You had the farmyard manure was the only thing you had.
Yeah, I suppose it was handy to get rid of it too.
It was.
Yeah.
What I was doing. Well, you didn't mind you sowed your spuds. Sure, everyone was at the same. Now you got the horses and split the drill and cover them up.
Yeah.
And there was no such thing now of what's going on with the cordon. Spraying 2 or 3 times. The old cordon wasn't sprayed, there was no word about spraying.
Not spraying the potatoes. You had that bluestone and washing soda. And you had to melt the washing soda in a pot on the fire.
Yeah.
And that had to be mixed up and brought.
It carries in a bucket to the field
Spray.
where the lad was spraying.
Yeah.
Up to the top of the hill, a bucket of hot washing soda. Up there where Mickey Flinga Crown, God rest him, used to spray here. You turned that 2 or 3 fields. That wasn't a nice job.
No. No.
But in the thrashing, there was a lad used to have to carry water to the engine. And you wouldn't have iron up to carry it. Now we've got a cut of a chap like me when you started out.
Yeah.
When you're in to be a man, you're all right. I was about 13. And Sam Fox was the old man in it. And the wife. Then Harry was the young man. I was charged go down by the door of their house, you know, Foxes.
Yeah.
And go up that bloody yard with the old buckets and edges and broke. With the shorts and the tear in your legs.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a girl working in it. And she came out, she says, "Hey, come in for a cup of tea, George." She was only working in it. I can't, I knew her well. She said, "I have to keep this water going or I'd be sacked." And you would be run home.
Yeah.
Come and be for an excuse.
Yeah.
You know,
As you mentioned there, George, this was when you were a boy.
a boy, yes.
And then what age or what would you do then to become a man, let's say?
Well, when you come up along the hard road,
Yeah.
you got to pick shaves or
Up to be
something like that.
Teenage, well, I suppose you were a teenager.
Well, when you went into the
Yeah.
haggard,
18 you were.
when you went into the haggard as a chap, the holes, dirty holes, all charred in water. But I wouldn't go in. I come back down the next down my 2 buckets. Mrs. Fox herself, God rest the woman, come out. She said, "George, it's the help scarce up there." Well, I was afraid to say anything. That time you were well kept under. So I don't know, ma'am, it seemed to be fairly plenty. And who sent you to carry that water? The bosses, I doubt, her husband. And you got no help charging it. You had to charge the pump when you come down, and that delayed you again. Put water in the top of it to get it to pump.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What she did, you had to come in for the tea now. I didn't go in for the girl when she did her out. But say, "Ma'am, I could be run home." "You won't be run home." She says, "Come in and get the tea." So I had to go in. Well, I took a couple of mouthfuls and out with me, as quick as I could. Went on. Dinner time came. We're sitting around outside after dinner. I seen an old lad that was working at Fox's. He getting a pair of buckets. She had done the job. She got on to the old lad, the husband, over the chap that size and age, being carrying water again the hill. He didn't mind. Oh, they didn't carry right to the bog for sods.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I got after dinner, this old lad, "Come on, pick up the engine with me." I was away with it then. But there was no mercy for you. When you were small, you had to obey. But still, this is a far better time than then.
This is now.
Oh, this is now, I got it is.
Yeah.
You may give out, and sure, we'll always be at that.
Yeah.
But I heard of a family in Cranford, I won't give the name, Brahmin family. And some of them would go to first mass in Cranford. The rest of them wouldn't, but they had to get their clothes to go to second.
Oh, really?
Good clothes. See, there wasn't so many good suits.
Ah, yeah.
But I said, that was happening in a lot of places.
Yeah. In terms of political leaders or leaders of the country that you think have been the best and have
Well, I'll
done the
pick
most.
one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And that was in the 50s, 60s. Sean Lamar, you got the country going there. They're on the rim.
Yeah.
He come in like after the war years, when the country was beggared completely.
He got industry
And
going.
he got industry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kathy?
He got industry going.
Industry going.
Yeah.
Started places for work, and the people got a few pennies in their pocket.
Yeah. So then, as well as that, I suppose there's the currency change. What did that mean to you?
Well, I tell you what, it left you with less money. The value of the money went down
Yeah.
when you got that change of money.
Yeah.
It did.
Every time it changed, even from the pound it went down, and then the euro, then it went down again.
So now, looking back over the years, George, is there any tradition that was there years ago in farming that's not there anymore, or that I wouldn't know of, and you have fond memories of?
Well, as mentioned to you early on,
Yeah.
the tradition was you had a thrashing. You had your neighbours coming in.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for you.
And then hay putting in. A rick had very few sheds that time. And a rick,
Yeah.
a big rick of hay. Pitching forks and that carry on. No loaders going up. Only the hard way with arms.
Yeah.
But that said, you had that going on. That died out then. The machinery, the way of doing it, machinery come.
Yeah, and that got rid of
The
that.
ordinary
kind.
hand fork was gone.
Like hay is baled, and
Baled
there's no
and-
more ricks. And then silage, of course, is put in. Well, you have a few lads for that, for putting
Yeah.
in the silage.
That's the only time of the year, I suppose, that we do all get together.
I
Yeah.
remember
around
here
the
putting
place.
in hay.
Yeah, but it's always a rush too. It's not the same.
Is it not the same kind?
Not at all.
No.
No,
I remember
because
here putting
you'd
in.
have two or three tables here and lads all around them, and they'd be talking, there'd be something going on, but like they hardly have time to get any dinner now.
I
Yeah.
remember here putting in hay out there. This fella, he was pitching up the hay. I used to give him a bottle of stout or that after dinner, you know. This was when a young man, now 20, in his prime. Oh, he's alive still.
Okay.
And because he wouldn't take it, afraid it'd race the engine too hard. He'd do too much. He's on the land to the limit, so I wouldn't say his name at all. But he was clever. At 20 years of age, you know, when you're in your prime. And because he wouldn't drink it, the rest of them all took the drink.
Yeah.
But it was a hell of a warm day. And like sweating and all to that. And I said, this would be a great joke. Because this fella pulled back, he had brains to burn. You might run him too hard.
Or what did you do for enjoyment? Was card playing a big thing?
Card playing, we used to play at night with a candle above a Tillage. That'd be in the summer.
And where's that, George?
Where Tom Byrne is.
Oh, up over in Rock Tavern.
Rock Tavern. Shop was there that time.
Yeah, very good.
And
Shop.
Shop and come out there, get a candle, like on summer's night. Get down at 5 or 6 of us and play cards there till God knows when.
And would it be 45?
45 or nothing else.
Yeah.
Or 45. Play card playing and pitching and tossing.
Picking and tossing.
Pitching 2 pennies to a stone now. You call that the mutty. From 7 yards. Over got nearest to it, tossed the pence. And you could bet on heads and harps if you liked, or you could take whatever you headed and put them in your pocket.
Very good.
A Sunday then, when the harbour time come.
And throwing horseshoes. He did some of that too.
Oh, you
here.
horseshoes too.
Horseshoes.
When summer time come, you might gear up your old bike and get down to the harbour for a Sunday or that.
Really, yeah.
And get into the old hall if you had the price of it.
Coretown, is it?
You go down.
Yeah.
I think it's gone.
Oh, that's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
But this particular night, we were all outside with no money.
Yeah, no money.
And you were looking in. And the place full.
Yeah.
So we said to one lad, I think it was half a crown to get in, but you hadn't half a crown. What could you do when you hadn't it?
No.
You weren't going to rob, but you had no money. Poor old Mugdal, you never remember him, a Cranford. Mitch in that yard is a son of his.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, okay.
And so he was born at the Rock Tavern. Hogan was with me. Peter Murphy a Cran, he's still alive. Jack Collins, he's dead. There was somebody else. Well, we thought of a plan. We'd splice for you £0.5, the 4 or 5 of us, 6pence a piece or that, and let you go in and pay, and go around and into the men's toilet, and mount the door inside, and the window was outside. I watched it the last time I was in Courtown. I got in through that.
Really?
In the middle of broad daylight. There was 4 of us got in. Hogan died and all. Peter Murphy a Cran.
Yeah.
And just the only way you could get in. The other was inside taking you down.
Yeah.
I said, when the women got in, you were the girl taking you down. And we got in then for 6pence.
Yeah.
In for 6pence.
That was a good plan anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the way you're getting in.
Yeah.
Tom Chinchala. That was the other one.
Yeah.
You're formerly from Mucklemore Mean.
Oh,
He'd
yeah.
be your brother, Mick Dials,
All right, yeah.
Grand Board. There was 5 of us, and amounted to £0.5, 5 6s. Like, that time you had people that ramble into your house at night.
Rambling, yeah.
Rambling. Lads that ramble in, talk and smoke and go home. And more go in to be a game of cards.
Yeah.
All that's gone.
That's gone, yeah.
Gone completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the dance hall came and wanted to see it.
Have them.
Sorry?
You couldn't have them things now.
No, yeah.
Everything has changed so much. Like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
The rambling
There
too,
was
so that's...
years ago that you can have now. That
Yeah, and was music big back in the day then, the
Yeah, someone playing the melodeon.
melodeon?
Yeah, so accordion or the melodeon.
Yeah.
That was the real thing. Slab it away. So one to see it. One to see it. Father Joe was in one to see it. He came around 30 or 31. He was there 24 years. He started to have hops in the school. Showed back a big screen that was in the middle of it. It was all in the one. Before it was done up, you know. And he had hops, shilling hop. You went there and you paid a shilling. You danced till 12 o'clock or half 12. So on the night, would there be 300 or more in it? They come from everywhere on the voice.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
He'd get a licence for 4 dances. He'd have the 4. Then he'd label it for a while. Then apply again. He'd get around £30 a night. That was great money.
Yeah.
Great money.
Yeah.
£30. Well, he counted. He'd done up to chapel and done up to school. It was in ribbons. The chapel was in ribbons, complete ribbons. He done all that at Shapeway. But all that went down. He built the hall. And then after that, yeah, the dances. Well, they went on. They were proper dances. I'm sure now, if you open the door, no one will go in.
no, you must have a bar.
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, you'd have no one, only yourself.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. So, you know, we've spoke about the good things of years ago and the bad things and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Which kind of era do you think is better nowadays, to be young or to be young years ago?
Well, I think the old time.
Old time.
Like, we go down with your boys, be a crowd of lads and ladies coming out of Courtown, and their bicycles home,
Yeah.
and going down,
Yeah.
and going to dances, and coming home. I could see nothing wrong with it.
No, that sounds good anyway, George.
Yeah, maybe it's
I
only...
suppose when we were young, we enjoyed that, and
Yeah.
maybe we were young. We
When
don't
you're
know
in your-
what goes on today.
When you're in your
But you-
early 20s,
but,
you didn't mind, right? I rode a bike to Dublin 3 times, to matches. I rode to Welsh Park in Waterford. I rode to Kildare. I rode to Kilkenny several times.
Wow.
Sure, then you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
You're well fit for it.
Yeah.
It's the money shortage or the violent drawback.
Really, yeah.
You wouldn't go mad. But now that's the old times.
That's the old
But
times now.
they won't be back anymore.
No. And on that final note from George, our interview came to its end. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks for a couple of hours.
We hope that you're enjoying this Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy. Find out more at farmersjournal.ie.
Finally, we're just days away from 2017, so what does the new year have in store for Irish farmers? Thomas Hubert asked our tillage editor Andy Doyle, whom we heard from earlier, dairy editor Jack Kennedy, and livestock specialist Nathan Tuffy to gaze into next year's crystal ball.
Maybe, Jack, I'll start with you. What do you expect for your guys on the dairy side?
Thomas, the prospects look good enough at the moment in terms of milk price. I suppose it's one of the key determinants of income on most dairy farms, and at the moment the global sentiment in terms of milk markets is good. So look, you'd have to be positive, and I suppose we're coming on the back of a relatively poor 2016 when you had milk price down around $3.20 per kilo milk solids, which is kind of 23 or 24 cents per litre in old money. So, it was a relatively poor year. So the only way is up really for the dairy farmers. And at the moment, here we are speaking kind of late December, early January, the price is moving upwards towards the kind of €4 per kilo milk solids, 27, 28 cent a litre in old money. So, things are definitely improving, and the outlook will be positive.
Okay, and what about dry stock, Nathan?
I suppose last year we saw a particularly good start to the year. The first half of the year was very good for the live cattle trade and the beef trade, but the second half of the year after the Brexit announcement brought an awful lot of challenges for farmers. So I suppose one thing that you have to be conscious of is what may happen next year because of Brexit, or if it will happen or will not happen. I suppose there's an awful lot of unknowns there. In terms of the live trade, you could say that at the moment we're looking at prices being back probably 20 to 25 cent per kilo on where they were in the springtime when peaked. Looking forward into next year, we're probably going to start off around about where we are today. The last month to 6 weeks of trading has been quite steady, and I would expect it to continue into the springtime. As I said, the main challenge I would see for next year would be the effects of Brexit on the beef demand and exporting, etc. The other issue that we would have next year is there's a little bit more uncertainty there on calf prices and where calf price is going to go in the springtime. There's one of the larger exporters, Cork Marts, are signalling that they're pulling out of the market, and that will have a big effect. We don't know yet if anybody's going to take their shoes or who will fill their shoes. Naturally, somebody will pick up a lot of the slack, but I suppose there is a little bit of uncertainty there on that front.
Jack, on this calf issue, are we maybe headed towards a more of a New Zealand situation where bobby calves are a byproduct and are not worth anything anymore for the dairy farmer?
Yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet, Thomas. There is still a value on a calf, and it depends. Okay, albeit they're lower value as a calf, but there's still, if somebody wants to take them on, there's still value there to be money made to be made from them. And sometimes we can see the lowest value Frisian calf can make even more money for a farmer, albeit it's not the Charolais type, animal where you'd have good carcass conformation, etc. But it is a meat source, and farmers can still make money from them. So, I don't think we're just there yet. The factory, the processor will still need throughput. He'll still need meat. And a lot of it is going for processing, as opposed to high value cuts. So, that's fair to say, Nathan, that there's still potential value there for the farmer.
Absolutely, Jack. Yeah, I think I agree totally with that. In terms of demand, I think you're probably going to see a little bit of easier prices in the springtime. That's naturally what's going to happen. But in terms of demand, Irish suckler farmers and beef farmers have gone down the route of bringing those calves through to beef, and when you don't have the cost of a suckler cow to take out of them, there is a margin in them too. So yeah, it's not the end of the world there.
Okay, Andy, grain markets, I suppose predicting is hard, but 3 years of really low prices, has it ever happened that a fourth year stays as bad as it has been recently, or can we expect some uplift there?
I think on grain, there's nothing at all that says that we won't get 4 or 5 or 6 years of low prices. But as low price is predominantly driven by oversupply and output, it's not very often that we've ever been able to put 4 or 5 years of high output to drive surplus supply to drive down prices. That's not been something that has happened very much in history, but it has happened, and it's happened in the past 4 years in particular, and prices have suffered accordingly. If you stand back today and look at the potential for the year ahead, well, you'd have to stand back and be cold about it and say, it'll be the same again or worse. But in reality, I think that there's no farmer out there that can live with that as a real thought. You always hope for the best and better. And there invariably will be something that's going to happen somewhere. Like in the tillage business, because you're basically operating under God's sky, you almost have no control over what the output of the harvest is going to be. If you get a calf, you know you're going to get a bullock. If you get a sheep, you know you're probably going to get a lamb. And if you get a lamb, then you'll have lamb to sell. In our case, if we plant acres, there is no guarantee of what the output from that acre will be.
We've seen that this year in some areas, definitely.
Yeah, and at the moment, the continuing reduction in the size of the French maize harvest estimate is impacting on European prices. So they're not as bad as people might have been anticipating some time ago. But, I think that it would be wrong of anybody to be over-pessimistic. It only takes a 2 to 4% swing in output to turn what is a surplus into a dangerous deficit, or at least a deficit in people's minds. It may not be a real deficit, because you could still have a number of 100 tons of surplus, but the world has this kind of gut feeling of safety that it needs to have 3 to 400 million tons of surplus, just so that it will have something for tomorrow. And with the way the market continues to change, we are definitely in a scenario where we have less transparency. More coming out of South America, more coming out of Central Europe means you're less certain what's actually going to come or what has come. And you end up with a lot of these supply imbalances in different parts of the world, and they give rise to price hikes, price spikes, and it's up to everybody to watch the market to avail of a spike if there's one there that makes sense.
You've mentioned the weather, and I suppose it affects everybody here around the table. We're not going to try and predict the weather for the year ahead, but are there any lessons to be drawn from the sort of erratic weather we've had this past year, and how farmers in various enterprises can manage this better and be ready and be prepared? Maybe on the livestock side, Jack? I mean,
specifically on the dairy side, you're right. We saw very extreme weather. In the east of the country, we had farms that got 600 mils of rain, which is, 23, 24, 25 inches of rain only, which was down probably 30 or 40% on the previous years. And that was compared then to Tyrone, parts of Donegal, that got over 1,800, 2,000 millimetres of rain, and it's only a couple of hours away. So the differences are quite stark. Especially in the east of the country, where you're getting a very small amount of rain, you really need to take a good first cut silage. That's probably one of the real lessons for dairy farmers, is that, you take a good yield of first cut early in late May or early June, so that you have a bulk of your winter feed put aside. Because invariably, and look at it, it's not for definite, but you get a lot less rain in the July, August, September period, and that, obviously then the grass is in a shortage at that time. So if you get a good bulk of first cut silage put away in late May, early June, you're effectively trying to put aside a good feedstock for that winter period. So that's a real lesson in those areas where you have low rainfall. Again, then it's equally important in the wet areas that you need a good insurance policy, because invariably you're going to be inside. If you're getting 2,000 millimeters of rain, you're going to be inside a lot of the period producing milk indoors. So you need quality again. So you need to be picking off what good quality silage you can, whether that's round bales or smaller cuts. You need to be picking them off definitely more frequently.
Maybe, Nathan, on the housing and stock management, any lessons we can learn from this past year? There was a lot of back and forth going on. Yeah, it was a very challenging year this year in some parts of the country, as Jack said. I suppose one benefit that the suckler and beef lads have generally is that they're not as highly stocked as some of the dairy lads out there, so it gives them a little bit more flexibility. I would agree with 100% with Jack's issue there on silage quality. I suppose from the suckler side, it's something that we don't put enough of emphasis on, while some farmers are constantly targeting just making average quality silage to feed to a dry suckler cow over the winter. They forget about the need to make good quality silage for the weanlings and that. I suppose in terms of grassland management, it just means that farmers have to be more flexible. I suppose over the last couple of years, we've seen more intensive farms, put paddock grazing infrastructure together, and even adopt some on-off grazing practices at times during the springtime and the summertime this year in some parts of the country, to try and manage through the wet spells. It's not just matter about housing all stock. Even in the wetter parts of the country, what some farmers are trying to do is, if they have to put in the cows
they're putting in the cows for maybe a week or 2 or 3 weeks, but they're keeping the young cattle, the calves, out of grass to try and maximise cheap weight gain where possible, and supplementing the cows where needs be, then just to make sure that fertility isn't affected or anything like that.
Andy, I suppose you can't bring the crops in if it rains too much, but any things farmers have got better at in those unexpected rains and ways they can deal with this that can be replicated in the near future?
Well, Thomas, I think that one of the major things that we've learned over the last number of years is the complete unpredictability of weather, whether it's going to be the wet spring, the wet summer, the wet harvest, or the wet fall. And the single lesson that's there for any tillage farmer is do it when you can. Don't put it off until tomorrow unless it's necessary, because there is no guarantee that there'll be a string of tomorrows to do it. And a lot of the good guys have got very good at that. You know, they often used to say that the difference between a good farmer and a bad farmer was a week. Now it's a day. And you have to be able to grab the chances to maximise the potential of the crop. And I think it's not just for tillage. I think that same thing applies to anybody. You know, you try and do today what can be done today in the hope that it gives you feed in the shed or whatever for any other of the enterprises. You have to just pull on the ball when it's there.
I just wanted to throw something out to you, because we have tillage and livestock farmers around the table. A feature of 2016 was a lot of talk and even protests about grain coming in for feed, and from abroad, the quality of it, the rationale behind it. Should we be importing feed when we have growers who have trouble getting good prices for their product? Can you see movement on that in 2017? Any initiatives making progress there, or is that an issue at all, or was it maybe just because the harvest was so bad and we're trying to find ways of helping the most affected guys on the tillage side? Jack, any idea of progress there?
It probably has, even more implications for the livestock and the tillage enterprises. But as far as the dairy concerned, because we're not as obviously dependent on purchase feed. The majority of feed in Ireland is grass, and it's grown on Irish farms, to produce milk. So it's we're not as dependent on it. But I suppose, and I'll let Andy and Nathan comment on it. But we whatever comes in, it needs to be quality, I would say. And first and foremost, you'll use your native grains, and in a lot of cases, it'll make good value sense to use those native grains.
Andy?
I think the comment has to be made that it's already made a hell of a difference in 2016. A lot of people in the business of buying grains and feeds have kind of thought twice about what they're buying, and an amount of imported grains that mightn't have been of the highest possible origin sources were cancelled in favour of native grains. And it's made a big difference to the sector, because now we have people who can sell. If you want to sell this year, you can sell, because stores are not full of and books are not full of imported product already. And whether we like the price or not, it's a different issue. But I think it's also important to say that the protest that went around the imported grain was partly to do with quality, but it was much more to do with the contamination that was in it of different weeds that, if they got loose in the Irish countryside, would basically close down the industry, or had the potential to close down the industry. And, doing anything that threatens the native industry cannot be something that anybody can stand back and allow. And I think there's a lot more focus on that whole area now, even to the point that people in the business and in the trade would be unwilling to bring in imported seed from another country in case these things were coming with it. So the IFA campaign at the time has certainly increased awareness. There will invariably be a risk or a leakage in the system somewhere unintentionally, and unintentionally is something that we have to live with. But at least the widespread importation of grains that could make their way directly onto farm, and in particular the grains, the seeds within them, make their way directly onto farm, preventing that would be a very useful thing. And one of the interesting calls I heard recently from IFA would be that all grains coming into the country should be screened. Nobody in the proper mind will say that grains shouldn't come into the country. We do have to have them. But at least they deserve to be of a standard that protects the native industry and also protects the end users. And that's something that I think there will be increased concern about in the future.
Nathan, any appetite for this among dry stock farmers?
Yeah, I suppose for finishers, grain quality is paramount. You need very good grain quality to be able to finish cattle well. An awful lot of finishers are using a lot of maize meal, but if you look at the diets that are being fed, they're traditionally, the majority of the diet is based on barley and wheat, generally homegrown where possible. In the last year or two, I suppose we have seen more farmers try to source homegrown, well, not necessarily homegrown grain, but native grain, as a means maybe to try and keep the cost of the finishing down as well. If you can buy barley green off the combine in the autumn and you have your means of storage and you're going to be feeding it through the diet feeder for the winter, then for a lot of people it does make a good choice, and you're seeing a lot more than that happening. Even smaller farmers throughout the country are starting to source some barley, some wheat direct from some tillage farmers, quality assured of course, if where possible, and that is starting to make a little bit of a difference. All right,
Andy, Nathan, Jack, thank you very much, and we'll see you all again, of course, in 2017. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
The Irish Farmers Journal podcast, online at farmersjournal.ie, on the Irish Farmers Journal app and on iTunes every Thursday. Brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.